Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. Today my friends at Volvo Cars of Shreveport have loaned me this 2020 model of the Volvo XC40 T5 all-wheel drive R-Design. And throughout our video today, we're going to stay focused on this particular model, but of course there are other trim levels available. If you would like to see me do a video featuring those other trim levels, tell me down in the comments and I'll definitely do that depending on what inventory is available, or as it becomes available, we'll add videos here to the Vehicle Visionary YouTube channel. There aren't going to be a lot of changes between the 2020 and the 21 models of the XC40. So basically, other than some minor tweaks, this is what you're going to get. So whether you're looking to get a 2020 model or a 2021 model, this video could very well help you in your decision making. Now, I hope nobody's disappointed over the fact that I said earlier there's not going to be a full refresh for the 2021 model year of the XC40. After all, this is the first generation that we're still in that debuted for the 2019 model year with this particular model of Volvo. And one of the great things is that it's definitely not hurting for safety features. And I'll list those on the screen so I don't accidentally miss anything, because there are quite a few, but I do want to talk about one, which is collision avoidance. And what that's going to do is to help to keep the XC40 in its lane. If it starts to depart the lane, it will steer itself back. It's going to reduce the opportunity of a collision and definitely help in any situations where there's heavy braking involved or whatever the case may be. Definitely nice technology that we have available in this day and age that we haven't always had. And in addition to those features, of course, you're not going to have any trouble seeing at night. You do have the LED headlights, automatic high beams, and LED fog lights here on the bottom of the bumper. So let's talk a little bit about one of the greatest features of the XC40, and it has to do with gas mileage coming from the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that's found here under the hood. Now you might notice I haven't opened the hood yet, but I want to make a really good point here of one of the greatest features for a gearhead such as myself when it comes to opening the hood. And I know a lot of people might say, I'm never going to open the hood. Well, some of us actually like to do that. You might want to fill the reservoir for the windshield washer fluid if you need to do that. Simple little things like that, or you may just want to raise the hood to see what's under that if you're like me. But here's one of those features I think should be on every vehicle. I haven't opened the hood yet. Now the hood latch is right here on the left hand or right hand side if you're facing the vehicle. And the thing I like about it is that it's yellow. It's very easy to see, and of course the hood is very easy to raise. A lot of the time the hood latch blends in with what's under the hood. You've got a lot of black plastic under here, and that makes it a little bit harder to see if you happen to look under there. I like the fact that that's yellow and it's right there in a very easy spot to find. Now, like I said, you've got a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder here. It puts out 248 horsepower and 258 foot-pounds of torque. It's mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission. Gas mileage is very impressive. In fact, this is among one of the best in its class at 22 miles per gallon in the city and 30 out on the highway. So if you're looking for a vehicle that's going to sip gas but still have the functionality of an SUV, well, this could very well be one of those that will work for you. So let's talk a little bit about exterior design and take a little bit closer look at that. You've got the 19-inch R-Design rims that really set this XC40 off, make it look very nice and very sporty. You do have the power folding side view mirrors and keyless entry, and yes, you do have the blinker right there. I get a lot of questions about that. Something you're going to see on most vehicles in this day and age, but yes, it is here on this model of XC40. Contrast is always a good thing. So you've got the black contrast roof and of course the mirrors as well, which even though the windows are tinted, they're going to look darker against this black roof. as opposed to if they had the exterior color that we see here up on the top as well. And you also have the advantage of a panoramic sliding sunroof up here on the top, fairly large. It doesn't take up the entire roof of the vehicle, but a good portion, especially something that's going to be useful to those who are sitting here in the back seat. And of course the sportiness continues here onto the rear. You've got the rear spoiler right here built into the roof, but just a nice overall look. And it is functional in the respect of allowing, as you drive down the road, air travels over and really down in this direction, so that's going to keep the back window as clean as possible while you're driving. If you drive through any dust or whatever, just stuff that's floating around in the atmosphere, it's going to actually be channeled over the window. But of course you do have your rear wiper if you need that. Now there are of course a couple of different ways to access the rear cargo area. As you would expect, you've got a button right here. You can use the button on the interior. There's also a kick plate here on the bottom, and while that's what it's called, a kick plate, you're supposed to basically kick like that and it will open the rear cargo area. But if you happen to have a little bit of trouble with that, you can swipe your foot across and it will accomplish the same thing. I know some people who maybe want to tell everyone how things are supposed to work and don't realize that sometimes they work multiple ways, might say, oh, it's a kick plate, it's in the manual. I've heard that, read it in comments before. But if you have trouble with that, you can do it this way as well. And I'll just demonstrate right there. All I did was swipe my foot across. I didn't even touch the kick plate down there, but there are multiple ways that can work. Okay guys, now that we have the rear lift gate open, let's talk a little bit about towing and hauling capabilities, what your cargo space is back here. Now, you do have two different versions of the XC40. You've got the front-wheel drive version, or you have this particular model, which is all-wheel drive, and you're going to be able to maximize your towing capacity, which is 3,500 pounds with all-wheel drive. And as far as your cargo space goes, with the 60-40 split rear seats in their upright position, you've got 20.7 cubic feet of cargo space. Not too bad. You can lower those 60-40 split rear seats to maximize your cargo space to an amount of 47.2 cubic feet, which is pretty impressive. Now you can also take this little cover right here that's going to lay flat when the door is closed. You can take that out and it's not that difficult. There's just a couple of things you need to remove. You've got these little pieces that hold it up here that are latched on to the cargo or rear door, I should say, itself. And then basically you're just going to work it off of where it's bolted into, or I should say latched onto in the front. I'm showing you that on your screen so you know how to do that. It's very easy to remove and or reinstall. And in the event that you have maybe some skis or something like that, maybe some pieces of wood that don't quite fit without keeping the rear door open, there's a pass-through here in the middle that will help for little situations like that. Kind of like what I call a multitasker in a lot of my videos. That is one of the multitaskers in this vehicle. And basically, it's up to you what you put in there depending on what your needs and or situations are. Of course, you do have the rubber mat right here that you can remove. There is a floor underneath with a full-size spare underneath. That floor does fold up to get out of your way and make accessing the spare tire and the tools to change the spare tire, if you ever need that, much easier. You also have a 12-volt power outlet right here. You've got some more storage here on the right-hand side and even a nice strap to keep things in place so things aren't moving all over. You've got some tie downs and the two little hooks here in the front area right behind the rear seats. Those are actually for you to hang grocery bags on, or again, you could use that as a multitasker, whatever you can get to fit on there, basically just to keep things in place, but specifically meant for the grocery bags to keep your groceries from rolling all over the back seat. Don't want to mess anything up that doesn't need to be bruised or broken. And when it comes to closing the lift gate, you have a couple of options here, even a sticker here that shows you how to use that kick plate down there, the motion sensor that I mentioned earlier, if you need that. But you have two buttons right here. One for just closing the lift gate and one for closing it and locking the interior at the same time. The Volvo XC40 R-Design fits into the luxury subcompact SUV class. And one thing I must say, having the panoramic sunroof right here, especially for the middle seat passenger, definitely increases headspace. And while sitting on the driver or passenger side of the rear seats, at 5'10", you can see about where my head is. I'm not quite touching the roof, but I am sitting straight up. So one way or another, even though I don't have a ton of head space above my head, I do have a lot of leg space, a lot of room between my legs and the front seat. So I would be very comfortable back here, and the seats themselves seem to be pretty comfortable, although I'm not going to have the experience of riding down the road back here, but we'll just have to save that maybe for another video if I can find someone who wants to drive, and we'll ride back here in the back. But there is a reasonable amount of space. You've got a lot of space for storage. The little cargo nets here behind or on the rear of the driver and passenger seats, the door bends. And there is a USB port here as well, so you can take advantage of that, and also dual air conditioning vents to help keep your rear seat passengers nice and comfortable. The overall look and feel of the R-Design XC40 is exactly what you would expect. It's what it's intended to be. It looks luxurious. Whether it's the different trim, you've got a leather-wrapped steering wheel that is nice and comfortable with the paddle shifters. If you wish to use those steering wheel mounted controls, you've also got the chrome Volvo logo here in the center of the steering wheel and the R-Design logo on the bottom, along with contrast stitching. And one thing I like here is that you do have a little bit of bolstering on the front seats for the driver and passenger. Even though this isn't meant to be a high performance vehicle, that is a nice feature to have in any vehicle you may drive, just because it helps you to stay in place a little bit more when driving around sharp corners, whether you're driving spiritedly or not. It's just nice, and it does add to the comfort level of the seats. You also have the seat extensions here for the driver and passenger seats. I'm showing you that on your screen right now, and that can add to the comfort level of the driving or riding experience for those sitting here in the front. And on the driver's side, there's even a little additional storage bin under the seat, kind of small, but it is there. You could use that for a lot of different items depending on what you can get to fit. That's one thing about the XC40. There's a lot of interesting little nooks and crannies and places to store things, but you'll notice there's not a plethora of buttons to navigate your way through, but there are a lot of adjustments for multiple features and settings here in the XC40, and those are found within the touchscreen. And we're going to take a look at that in just a minute in a little more detail. But before we do, of course, you've got another 12-volt power outlet here, USB port, and a wireless charging pad for your cell phone, which is always a nice feature. Now, I have to say, to add to the sportiness, look, and feel of the XC40, you've got the shifter here. Tell me what you think about that. That shifter is a little bit different, but once you get used to it, not a big deal. And to put it in park, of course, you don't use the shifter itself. There's the P button right there. You just push that. You also have the automatic or power parking brake, and you have the button for the auto stop start feature. You can turn that off or on if you want to. Cup holders, and you've got more storage here. You've got a little storage bin in front of the console here, and then of course the console itself can double as an armrest for the driver and passenger, and you do have some storage space inside. Okay guys, let's run through the center screen here, and basically you have three main screens here. We'll scroll through all three of those, that being the first, the second, and of course the third. And depending on what you want to do, of course, you can go through and find everything that you need. You can turn some of the features off and on as far as the safety features go. As you can see here on this particular screen, you can control the air conditioner down here on the bottom. And there are some more features here on some buttons underneath that, as you can see as well. Depending on what you want to do, of course, you can turn the radio up or down right there. I'm going to leave that muted just so we don't get any copyright hits from YouTube. But of course, you can go in and change the camera settings depending on what you want to do. Quite a bit here to work your way through, but it's not that hard. Like I said, here's here's everything that you can change right here. System, climate, you've got my car up there, sound, navigation, basically everything you need. And it's really not that terribly difficult, at least based on what I'm seeing here. And you can go back right there, and of course you can X out to get to the screen you were just on, depending on what you want to do. But everything you would expect is here. Of course, you've got your current position. Don't have a phone paired right now, but again, very, very easy to use in that respect. But we'll just click on position right there. Basically, that's your navigation. Again, I don't really see this as being that terribly difficult to navigate. It's just kind of what I call the hunt and peck method, depending on what you want to do. You just find it, and I think once you use this system a couple of times, you'll find that it's a lot easier after the first couple of tries, just finding your way around. Not that terribly difficult to use, at least not in my opinion. But tell me down in the comments what your experiences have been if you are an XC40 or Volvo owner with the center screen.
When it comes to driving the XC40, overall the experience is very good. In fact, the only negative I have to say is that it does feel a little bit top heavy in sharper corners. Not terribly bad, and something that is likely to be corrected if it's your daily driver. You get used to the way it handles, and I think a lot of that would go away. The engine itself is not overly powerful, but definitely spunky and responsive. The 0 to 60 time is 6.8 seconds, which is more than enough for the average daily driver. The transmission itself is nice and responsive, whether you need to downshift or upshift, whether you're using the shifter paddles or not, it is a good experience. Even the engine stop-start feature is not as obnoxious as you might find in some other vehicles, and I think that's one of the reasons why the XC40 is such a popular vehicle. Even with the system turned on, it isn't as obvious that it's shutting the engine off and then restarting it when you come to a complete stop. Overall, I must say my driving impressions of the XC40 are very high.
Okay, I think I've done about all the talking I need to do. It's your turn. Tell me down in the comments what you think about the Volvo XC40. Is it something you own? Tell me what your pros and cons are. What do you like? What do you not like? What would you like to see change in the future? Or maybe you're planning to buy one of these in the near future or so. I appreciate my friends from Holmes Volvo Cars for loaning me this XC40 for the day. And of course, every single one of you for being kind enough to take the time to watch. I appreciate your time, guys. Thank you for your support of Vehicle Visionary. If you like the design of the new t-shirt here, hit the link in the description. I'll leave one down there where you can purchase one for yourself. I appreciate all of you and everything you do to support Vehicle Visionary. I enjoy spending time with you and talking to all of you in the comments. Thanks for your time, guys. I look forward to seeing you in my next video.